average, how many images will you shoot on a wedding?
If it's 8 or 9 hours up to the first dance, I'll probably take around 500 frames at a wedding, and the finished album would probably have between 150 and 200 images in the album. That's not 500 shots, that's frames, because as I say, there's 3 shots for this moment. I'll probably took at least 3 frames of that, so that's 1 shot out of the 3.
So you
So probably about 250 moments over a whole wedding, probably.
So the couple will see around 250 odd images.
No, I'm one of the photographers for the last 12 years. I shoot the wedding. After discussing it with the couple, I will then edit and design the album, and they get the album. There's no proofs. They see first thing they see is the album.
Okay, I think quite a few people have asked me this as well. How do you choose or design the albums, etc.? I think we'll keep this question for the end because it's quite an interesting way you create albums for your clients. So let's go through these images very quickly. We'll have plenty of time at the end as well to answer that question. So this is, I believe there's a bit of a delay at your end of the image popping up. Have you got the one which is shots indoors of the ceremony?
Yeah, this is the one I thought he was going to come on to. Yeah, this is in Rytown Hall, the November the 1st wedding, again, when we saw the bride approaching with the white car and the 2 umbrellas. This has got, from memory, a touch of bounce flash, bounce from the wall behind me, with the flash sort of 45 degrees upwards because it's a dark wall.
Yeah.
I would have been shooting on 1600 ISA at about 60th at 2.8. The flash was just to freeze the movement, and it's just waiting for the moment to happen, and they were quite a happy, laughing couple, so it's just a question of waiting.
Waiting up. And for this kind of a shot, and when you are converting into a black and white, do you use any special presets or software, or you just have your own workflow to convert to black and whites?
Yeah, what I do in the raw file, if I know it's going to be black and white, I actually try and bring the raw file as cold as possible.
Yeah.
So I get rid of the red channel for stop, because obviously if it gets too red, you get a lot of noise in the red channel. And then as a colour image, it would look quite revolting, really. But then I know that will convert with my black and white conversion action that I've got nicely, and then I just add contrast and a vignette and a bit of sharpening. Just to get that. So,
yeah, the color, the tones on this image look beautiful.
Thank you.
Andrea is asking, would you visit a venue beforehand to do a little recce?
Hi, Andrea. Not normally, no. A lot of my weddings are shot away from Eastbourne, and I recce it. If I'm travelling, I get there a couple of hours early anyway, and I recce them on the day. But if it's a Sussex wedding, for example, I do the same thing, because what's relevant to me is the lighting and the weather on the day. So I may look at a website from the venue, but I just only to get a rough idea, and I look at it from my point of view, 3 or 4 plans for each shot.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when you're shooting the ceremony or during the ceremony, I know the D200 and the D300 has got a very quiet shutter compared to the pro bodies like the D3 and the D3Xs, etc. How many images would you shoot during the actual ceremony? And would you move around as well?
Yeah. If you got the picture in front with the people applauding in front of you,
yeah.
Yeah, this one was quite a lax one, because it was one of the modern sort of evangelical type churches with the minister in a normal suit. And I moved around a lot. I try not to move about too much in a normal church. A normal church I tend to shoot from the back primarily, especially with the video guy at the front, because I just want to be way away from him as possible. If it's a civil wedding, I often shoot from the front, from the groom's side to see the bride's face. But I tend to do entrance shots, readers, the people doing the readings, the rings, the first kiss, and in this case, I've got the elation. There's a modern band playing in there as well. And funny, later on in the picture, we're going to see the coloured gentleman at the back, Khalil. He's a group. That's his sister-in-law's wedding, and she was the first sister of 3, so he'll appear again later. But that was shot on the 85mm at 1.4.
Okay, yeah, it looks very dark, doesn't it, in there? And And you used a bit of flash on here?
Not at all. What it was because it's kind of like a king's church, if you know what they are, that type of wedding. There was like spotlighting and all sorts there, because they have just like a modern stage, and it's like next to the community centre, just like another community centre building.
Yeah.
So it's 400 ASA, 85mm 1.4, f2 or f1.4 it'll be shot at.
Wow, great.
It's just all about that moment.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, I have a quick question from you, from Nikki Thomas. It's a winter's day and it's pouring with rain. Do you still just follow the bride, or do you take them to an area of good light, or where the light is great?
For candid shots and documentary shots, I go with the flow.
Yeah.
If it comes to when I've got to do some pose pictures of a couple, then I take over and decide where we're going to do the pictures. The same with family groups. I would decide where we're going to do the pictures in most cases, and they, to be honest, they tend to do what I say. That's quite good. Just being confident when you ask. You don't ask them. You sort of say, "I think." You just tell them this is the best place to do the pictures.
Yeah. Okay. Now this image of the bride and the groom outside the church won you the Cosmo Bride magazine wedding photographer of the year.
Yeah, this is the same guy. This is Khalil. He married Lydia. This is the second of the three sisters. The previous picture, the bride's in the background, was a bridesmaid. One of those days, wet wedding in Northampton. I hadn't met them, and they came down the aisle dancing. And it turns out he's an American actor, so I just made sure that I was fully aware, everything was ready in camera in case anything happened, and he just ran out the church. Yeah. He's a comedy actor from America, it turns out. It helps, but it's just being ready for that moment when it happened. It's something you can't really pose. And it was fortunate that his wife had a good expression as well.
Yeah.
Nice people.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a question from Zoe. What would your advice be for a 4 p.m. wedding 2 days before the shortest day of the year?
Hi, Zoe.
She's shooting one very soon.
I recommend Kevin. No, seriously. Bottom line is, there was always, we've got 5 weddings in December this year, and probably 3 of them it'll be that sort of situation. Now, if there's no light, flash is the order of the day. You know, if I have to, I will shoot Candids on flash.
Yeah.
My rule of thumb is 1600 ISA, 60th at 2.8, and bounce the flash. Just make sure I shoot on angles, shallow depth of field, away from walls, so there's no flash shadow appearing, and it's just going back to what I said about compromising, making sure you get good consistency and get the wedding in the bag first.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this shot of the bride, you very carefully used the available lighting in the venue.
This is that case in hand. This is the Grand Hotel at Eastbourne between Christmas and New Year, just the last Christmas, just gone. This is shot probably 4 or 5 o'clock, so it is dark.
Yeah.
And I know the hotel, it helps. But I suppose she's held still for about, I think it's about an 8th or 15th of a second up there. I'm shooting off a tripod, because it's a pose picture. Yeah. And not only have I put the lights on, which the lights are above her to give light in the mirror, the 2 table lamps, and there's other lights in the corridor. Where she's looking, either side of her, there's a corridor. And I've just turned her till I get the light in her face from another wall light out of shot. And just told her how to stand and hold very still. And that shot's about 8th or 15th at 2.8. And that was on about 800 ISA, I think that's shot on. Yeah. I also use it, when I'm shooting that way off a tripod, I use a remote release cable, like a cable release for Nikon. I don't touch the camera as well.
Okay, so you use a cable release just so that you don't get any camera shake.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a Manfrotto carbon fibre tripod in my car at all times, but I think that was the only time I used it last year.
Okay, yeah. Now I've got a quick question from Alan. Do you apply noise reduction in post-production, or do you use any noise reduction software?
No, I've never used it, primarily because I've never looked into it, and I try to avoid spending money on software. I just go with the flow. I think if you get your exposure correct and shooting in RAW, most of the time you shouldn't have a problem. Bearing in mind that my cameras are quite basic when it comes to high ISO shooting.
Okay.
Never really needed it.
Yeah. This is a classic example of directional lighting or using available ambient light.
Yeah, it was, as you can see, it's quite dark. It's a place called Newick Park, and at certain times of the year and certain times of the day, if you're on the staircase on 3 floors, I'm shooting from stairs down on them, it's quite bright. But that time of year, winter, very dark, but there's always a light source, so it's just bringing them just to the right place to get the kiss of light in the bride's face.
Yeah.
The groom is not quite so heavily lit because it's all about her. He's the secondary, leading your eye back across the picture. But then the eye contact is very, very, makes it quite a strong image.
Yeah. Now, do you use reflectors?
I ought to after seeing Kevin's seminar.
Sure should I.
Yeah, I used to use it quite a bit back in the medium format days, but I work alone, so I travel very light. So no, the only time I use a reflector now is if I'm going to be, I did a wedding at Amberley Castle 2 Christmases ago, and the groups were going to be done in a small lounge in the evening. I use a reflector on my shoulder as a softbox, and I bounce to the Nikon head, SP800 head, away from the subject, and fire it into the reflector. It's an easy softbox. That's the only time.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. I've got another question from Zoe. With winter weddings, I find I have to use flash more than I'd like to, and because I don't use flash that much during the rest of the year, I'm not brilliant at it. What are your best techniques for getting flash right in winter? I believe she's asking how to balance the flash and the ambient light on the go.
Okay. With digital, I'll shoot up to 1600 ISA, which helps to get some ambience in the background. I always have my camera set on manual. I never let the camera take over. I'm sure that someone would have a way that the camera can do it better than me. But I shoot on manual, and I set the shutter speed, which is probably a 60th or a 30th or even a 15th. And as a picture later, if we get there, it's about half a second. So it's a 60th at 2.8 is enough ambience, or 30th, and the flash will freeze the subject. It's never put directly at the subject. It's always bounced off a side wall, off someone else, off a ceiling, but if the ceiling's high, obviously not. But it's all about shutter speed, so I can control the shutter speed and the aperture in camera. So I'm probably, if it's a Candy shot, 2.8 f2, depending what lens, 60th of a second, or even slower sometimes. Just depends how fast the subject's moving and what effect I want.
Yeah.
But that
So
way,
you want to expose as much ambient light in the background as possible, and your flash will look natural.
Exactly. There's a shot which we haven't got that I show on my website. It's taken at the Grand Hotel again in Eastbourne, and it was taken at about 6 o'clock in December. And I remember I posed the bride, she held still, but she wanted the depth of the Great Hall and the Christmas trees miles in the background. Yeah. So off a tripod, it was ambient exposure was 1 second at 2.8 on 400 ISO I was shooting when I had E200 originally. So I set the camera at 1 second at 2.8 as per the ambient exposure. The problem with that, of course, would be that the bride would go orange or bright red, and so that would go out to space. And the flash was bounced off my little reflector on my shoulder, my Astrolite, and that lit her and just took the harsh orange off. The background was a gorgeous orange, but she was the proper colour, shall we say, and it looks gorgeous.
Okay. Yeah. So when you take the couple out for the pictures in the winter and it's very cold, how long do you go outdoors usually?
As short as I can get away with. This wedding, if you've got the picture of the couple walking in the this picture's taken. This is extreme. This is Scotland. This is -10 degrees centigrade on 27th of December, 2 Christmases ago. It will be now, and this is before the wedding because the wedding was at 4 o'clock. Yeah, and it was a question of they wanted shots, and we were out for 15 minutes. And this is just walking away. He's carrying her shoes, and she's wearing plimsolls because it was sheet ice. She couldn't stand up. Wrapped in a short. I just say to him, as soon as you've had enough, because she requested this, don't worry about hurting my feelings. We just go straight back in. But we were out for a quarter of an hour. It was -10, and we got walking shots, couple shots, shot on a jet in, and we took him into the summer house for another shot. Set pieces. It was a venue called the Lodge at Loch Goyle in Argyllshire. But I move quick, and I think if I look like I'm moving quick and I don't keep saying how cold it is, it takes their mind off it a bit. It's just keeping it moving.
Yeah. So 10 minutes or so would be ample time for you to get the shots, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Once you
I've got a question from, yeah, you won't be able to get the shots. Got a quick question from Alan. How do you light big groups, say 100 plus? He has a wedding on the 18th of December with a 3 p.m. service. Chances are group shots will be inside with very low ambient light.
Right.
Any advice?
To me, I try to avoid it, but I have done it. What I did last year, again, a place called Ashdown Park Hotel, we shot off a staircase down to where they were in a wood-panelled room where the bar was. That was the only place to get them, and we shot it. I think I'm happy to shoot it at 1600 ISA anyway. Shot on a wide-angle lens, 2.8, but I had flash, and that was the flash was actually aimed into the middle of the group, almost direct. It was on-camera flash. The exposure was about 15:2.8, and it worked beautifully. And because of the way I work, I keep it simple, travel alone. If there was a slight fall off of light on the edges, it wouldn't take a lot in Photoshop with RAW just to bring the edges up slightly.
Yeah.
And it's a compromise again if you're inside. If you're outside, the wedding in Scotland, I had 30 people, but we did a shot at 4 o'clock off a balcony straight after the wedding. They'd be at 4:15, and they went outside and they just had to hold still. And I shot the big group on a 30th on 1600 ISA at twilight, and we got away with it. But I had to be quick because they were very cold.
Yeah.
But
so
it's more of a compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be
And
also
the other way I've done it is if I've got the reflectors with me, I've shot the same method of shooting a reflector on my shoulder, but I would bounce the flash into the silver side, which gives it a hell of a kick. Spreads the light.
It spreads and bounces and throws the light everywhere. That's fine.
It just depends on the location.
Exactly, yeah. So for a shot like this, obviously you are quite far away. So do you ask the couple to walk over there on the balcony and wait for you to be in the position, or how do you work this shot?
That's the same couple that you saw walking, and they knew I had to climb up a lookout tree which is full of ice, so it's like steps up like a ladder built into a tree. So I just, while they were walking ahead, which is quite a way ahead, I'm going to go up there, but if you can get right to the end, and I did have to shout, I was about 100 yards away, and shoot down, but the mist on the lock and the frozen lock, it was just a shot they wanted. They just meant they had to put the effort in. But when they were walking away from me, the previous shot, I said, if you walk to the end of the jetty and then watch for the tree where I'm going to be, and I'll just direct.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant. It wasn't a problem because it's so peaceful. There was no one else. Everyone else is in the house. They weren't outside at all. It was just no noise at all. In the middle of the night.
It is. Absolutely.
I told them, basically what I told them was where I wanted them to walk, what I wanted them to do when they got there, and I would be up the tree because obviously time is of the essence when it's that cold.
Yeah,
it's just a nice moment.
So this is a shot taken indoors. Is that shot with the window light? Sorry,
okay. I've got the PDF in front of me. Is it the colour shot of the couple?
Yes, inside.
Through like a library. Yeah, that's at Wiston House. That shot to, I've got it now, to the offside, to the right hand side of the frame, the bride side, there's a window. So they came out the ceremony, they walked through, and I took I knew that's the direction of light, so as I walked through ahead of them, waited for them to come through the house. I took the reading, set the camera, and just waited. And when you get a moment like that, you just make the most of it. Great careful. It's 400 ISO at 2.8. It's shot at 2.8, but probably about 60th or 125th.
Yeah, it is amazing how simple this shot is and how beautifully it is lit.
It's just about side lighting. The window basically almost 90 degrees to her, but there's also a window behind me, just like a fill light as well, coming sort of their side and front there.
It's gorgeous, yeah. And this looks like a late afternoon winter's day.
Yes, the same wedding. It's late. I think it's spring, the same wedding you've just seen. All I've told them to do is where to walk, but I've seen the composition that I want. Obviously, it's quite powerful, low lighting, so flare could be a problem. So you've got to be very aware of the flare. And I often shield. It's on the 17 to 55, which hasn't got a fully enclosed lens hood. So I shoot with the lens hood, but I use my hand as a supplementary lens hood just to try and control the flare on the lens.
Yeah.
The only Photoshop there, I've burnt in the trees a bit because obviously they can easily blow out with burn out with digital, and a vignette just in the bottom corners just to bring your eye back into the picture. But the rim lighting, I just love the rim lighting on the clients.
Yeah, I mean, are you bothered about flare?
I'm not. Well, I don't like the sort of flare you often see on some forms when it's overdone. And some people do it beautifully, but most do it badly. But there's a touch of flare just around the tree to the right hand side of the tree. But I don't really want, on that particular shot, I wanted the couple to be quite crisp. I wanted to emphasise the rim lighting, which is what makes a picture. The offset composition.
Yeah, yeah. Peter, I've just got a couple of people asking if you could just come a bit closer to your mic or talk a bit louder. I know you've got a bad sore throat.
Yeah, I don't talk much.
Now this is a bit unusual shot.
Ah, yeah. That's, again, Eastbourne Grand Hotel.
Yeah.
Shot in the evening, so it's dark. And her face is lit. The wall light above her head is in the composition to give an impression of lighting her face. To the other side of her out of shot, there's a similar light. And she's held still, trying to think. I think that's about 800 ISO, but she held still, shot off a tripod again, and it's about an eighth of a second. And I've just positioned her and turned her head enough just to get the light from the wall light opposite. And that's the only two lights, the one above her and the one out of shot, which is the prime light source in her face, and hold still. And I like the fact she looks quite vulnerable, clinging onto the railing, which the railing is used for the composition, just to lead in and out of the picture in the distance behind her.
Yeah. And Nikki Thomas is saying, Peter, not talk a lot. He's laughing.
I wouldn't dare speak too much with Nikki about.
Okay, this is the shot of the couple coming down the staircase.
That's another Sussex venue, Ashdown Park Hotel again. She's walking down to get married, and I've meted just to the left above her. There's a big window, a stained glass window, and I've got the exposure for that, so that's the beautiful light source. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
It's
and
quite simple.
Yeah, and the warmth.
I had said to her, when you come down the stairs, come down quite steadily, because I'm on about 30th or 60th. But I actually put it to her, come down steadily because you might trip. Just take it gently. But that's what I wanted her to slow down, so she walk slowly. So I've got no shutter speed worries.
Now this is an absolute classic shot of a winter's wedding day. And I'm quite glad that you haven't made it look a bit colder, because quite often I've seen images where the white balance has been toned down, whereas you can see the warmth of the tungsten light source and the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, it's a bit like the shot we had of the girl earlier with the car window. It was very blue. That's how cold it was, and I wanted it to remain how it was. This one was a January wedding. It's in Oxfordshire. They walked from the church to the hotel through the village up the hill, and it was -4 or 5. It was really cold. And that was shot on 3,200 on a D300. And I just think even the noise all adds to it. My only thing I don't like about it is I wish I could have got, I'm up against the shops behind, opposite them. My back's against the wall. I could have got back over 4 or 5 feet to get the whole of their shadows in. Yeah. It's just the perception. It tells the story of their wedding, even with the shoppers watching in the background. Yeah. Off to the right. Yeah. I just love the whole shot, the film shot.
Really nice shot. And the same again when the screen changes at your end of the bride and the beautiful warm light on her.
Oh yeah, that's an evening shot again. And what I've done, I've got to hold still, off camera to the right, where it's a little bit redder in the picture. There's a huge chandelier, soft light, but it's a direction of light. And you're just that's it, just off camera, just out of the shot it is.
Yeah.
And it wasn't dark enough, so there was still a touch of light in the stained glass behind, so a longer shutter speed just to get that. But she held still. She's quite an elegant lady anyway. I did briefly explain how I wanted her to stand, and then just turned the head. I said, turn, hold it there. That's perfect. It's clean the face up, and that's the shot. Very simple. Using the banisters as leading lines as well. And very importantly, Kevin will be pleased to hear that I didn't cut the archway off above. The composition, a lot of people would possibly cut into the windows or the archways, which are natural frames, and you want the whole picture.
No, it is a lovely, lovely, gorgeous shot. Okay, and the shot of the couple. Now it looks like there's a window behind you.
Oh, that shot. That's the girl that was very blue in that car window. This is shot at 5 o'clock in December, so it's dark. There's a couple of wall lights, but that is shot with my reflector tripod technique. That's 800 ISA. I'm on a tripod, cable release or remote release, and that was shot at 1/4 at 2.8. I remember doing this one last year, and the flash off on my left shoulder is the light reflector, so I bounce the flash into there, it comes back. So it looks like window light. Yeah. I've metered for the room light. Basically, I've metered for the exposure in the room, but I don't want her to go red. Yeah. And it softens.
It really is. I mean, this is a classic example of the flash being balanced with the ambient light. It is just gorgeous. It doesn't look like it has. A flash has been used.
When I first started out, I had 2 or 3 people that really helped me out. A guy called John Bubb, who's a really good friend. A guy called Nigel Harper, who's an amazing photographer, and him and John taught me these sort of flash techniques. And it's just so simple, but it's knowing how to do it. Once you've got mastered it, a little bit of practice, it's so simple. It's soft light, and as you say, it looks like window light, not flash.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, Nigel Harper just lives around the corner from me.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah, my
very fortunate to have Nigel, John, and Jeff over the first 2 or 3 years of my career. Gave me lots of advice and help, and it's a question of absorbing it and practicing.
Yeah, and I've got loads of comments over here. Absolutely, people are absolutely loving your images and saying how gorgeous these images are. So everybody is appreciating your time and your images, and you sharing your experience with them. Okay, a very windy day.
This shot that's come up is, as you say, a very windy day. It's been wet all day, and it got very windy, so it cleared some of the rain away. So the clouds, fantastic. But it's a place called Eastbourne Manor in Kent, and the traditional shot there. Well, I've only shot there once, but for the scene of it, every bride wants this huge fountain with a house in the background. So I had to sort of do what they expected. But this is a shot that I had in mind. I said, when you walk away, we finished now, but just stay together in case anything happens. But obviously with the wind blowing from left to right, it's just a question of having exposure right. It's a manual exposure again. I'm waiting for the veil to go. Yeah, it's very, very simple shot, but it shows, to me, it's the veil and the sky is the drama. The house is secondary almost.
It is, right. Yeah. A very graphical shot, beautifully done.
Are we looking at the blind shot?
By the bride by the window.
Yeah, that's this is an old shot. This is a photograph from film. It's a November wedding, about 5 or 6 years ago now. I love the shot. She didn't want any pose shots at all before going to church. What I saw the play on light on the floor. So I said, look, just before I go to church, please can you just stand there. I took 3 frames, told her how to stand, where to look. It's a very simple composition, but very powerful, with the lines leading in and repeated down her. It was on film, so I took 3 or 4 frames just to make sure I got no blinks. Although I watched from my left eye for blinks anyway, and left. But it's the only pose shot we did of her. Against what I said earlier, that I never pose a bride when she's getting ready. But this one, it just had to be done.
So quite a few photographers get this as well, including myself, where couples say we don't want any pose shots. And when they do a few shots, they love it. So do you ask them that, do you request a certain amount of time during the wedding day that please can I have just 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your day for some images which you would love if I to pose you guys?
Yeah, what we do, we say to the day it's their wedding, so I get clients when I'm not even allowed to approach them, which for someone like me, not to talk to them, is quite hard. But if they actually get to see full weddings here, some of the probably about 40% of our clients at the moment come to see us to see the sample albums. We do show a few, but I explain. See, what a lot of brides have seen is the old-fashioned way when you get a horror story and they get taken away for an hour or 2 hours from the wedding.
That's
I explain to them 10 minutes. It's probably too much time for me in most cases. So 5 to 10 minutes, we get the shots like you've seen, and they don't really know what they want until they actually see them, because the magazines tell them one thing. You get buzzwords like reportage, which I've seen a photographer that's more classical than Monty Zucker used to be, saying he's a reportage photographer. It's all about educating and making them feel confident that you can do these pictures with that this next shot that's come up, that's a pose shot. I've told them where to walk again, but I've seen the composition. My God, with the wind shot of the bough of a tree in the corner. And they've got that on their wall. It's I think they've got a 2016 big frame picture on their wall. That's their favourite picture of the whole wedding.
Yeah.
But they didn't want post pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And if you request them nicely, and they would love it. Now, for this shot, how long did it take to get this shot, and how did you manage to capture such a gorgeous shot on a wedding day? It's incredible.
Is this the one with the couple walking away? Oh, the one after with the birds.
Yeah,
it's just come up. Now that is Le Manoir. And going back to Nigel Harper, I remember seeing a picture of his years ago at Le Manoir, and I thought, I know he's incredible, but how the hell did he get the swans taking off or landing like that?
Yeah.
And when I went to recce it just before the wedding, this is a very wet day, I was quite gutted because they're actually statues. I don't know if anyone else knows Le Manoir. I know Kevin does. So I told them where to stand. I've visualised the picture because I knew the swans obviously aren't going to move. And in post-production, I've carefully taken away the stanza on it and the reflections of the stands in the water. And I just put a tone in, which this is not what I don't put these tones in my album, but this was one that I artworked for them on their wall. I just played around with it. It's in their album, it's actually a black and white image.
Yeah.
But we had, literally at that wedding, we had 5 minutes to get to that lake and back because there was a 6-hour coverage and they had 4-hour taster menu at the Manoir. That was their wedding. Came back to the ceremony and rushed there and back again.
It is gorgeous. Well, Jürgen is saying, how much did you pay the swans?
Yeah, I wish I just couldn't ever say they were statues. And to be honest, I was quite gutted because I just saw this fantastic picture and I was walking around the venue before the wedding. I couldn't believe it. All these lakes and ponds have got statues in them.
Yeah.
So the mystery was taken away.
Oh, brilliant. No, it's been a pleasure having you. But before I let you go off, obviously I've got a few more questions for you, Peter. But before I put them across to you, you've got a great workshop coming up early next year on the 3rd of March. Now it says, well, the title is The Real World Wedding Photography. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's going to be held at a place called Ashdown Park Hotel, which is East Sussex, but not too far from the M25. And what it is, it's about how I built a business. It's a bullshit-free seminar. There's no hype. It's purely about the tools that I use to build my business, how I market my business, how I price my business. It's all as it is. It's not going to be wall-to-wall AVs. It's going to be about substance. An open forum as well. And in the afternoon, for an hour or so, I've got one of my real brides coming down. I'm going to demonstrate how I shoot them, primarily inside. Bear in mind, it's going to be early March anyway. And the delegates will have opportunity to take their own shots under instruction, hopefully take on board what I've said. I'm there for advice, but most of the seminar is about how to build a wedding business in the real world, rather than you get people saying they've done 50 weddings at £8,000-10,000. The reality of it, how to do it, how to price it, how to market it, and how to shoot, keeping things simple to get consistency.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, cool. Now, you got some more information on your website, peterpryor.com.
Yeah, if you go to the blog, there's
Yeah.
a quite a big post on there about it. Or if you go on the blog onto the categories on the right-hand side, you can see training and you'll see all about it in detail. Or just give me a call or an email.
Yeah, and you've got a special price at the moment of only £200, which is fantastic value. And obviously, you just have a very few limited numbers for this workshop.
Yeah, well, I've done it before. I like to keep numbers. It's not going to be 50 or 60 people. It's usually about 15 people. And the idea is so they can get the maximum out of it. No one feels intimidated. They can ask questions as we go. When it comes to the live shooting, they've got an opportunity to get pictures rather than sort of be stuck at the back of a corridor or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so they can get as much out of it as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I would highly, highly recommend you guys take this opportunity and book your spots as soon as possible, because I know it will be sold out very, very quickly within the next few days or so. But let's move on to the question and answers now. You put quite a few last time to Kevin, and he's put one to you now, which is, what do you think is the current trend in wedding photography? For example, what about the MPA winner this year? I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
I've seen the picture. I wasn't there. To be fair, to me, it may or may not be a great picture, but it was. If that's the message it's giving off, that it's the best picture that the MPA wedding photographers have produced last year. I think there's something wrong with our industry. That's my opinion. He's probably, I don't know the guy, he's probably a great photographer, but to me it was an inappropriate picture to give that message off that it's the wedding photographer of the year. I'm seeing a trend. I was classically trained and used to work quite traditionally, and I developed my style. I'm seeing a growing trend for people that want very done quickly, but more of a few arty stroke classical pictures with a twist. And this is something that we're bringing into our business more and more. So almost going a little bit back to how it was, but obviously at a lot quicker speed than it used to be. It's definitely the way it's going.
Yeah. And I think coming back to your, sorry, go on then, Peter.
Yeah, so I think a big thing of this, there's so many people coming into the industry now with no training, bought a digital camera, they're instantly a wedding photographer, and they're machine gunning 2,000-3,000 pictures, and it's trying to present a lot of substandard work to the bride, and hopefully there'll be enough for her to pick. And the discerning bride is definitely coming back. They're not interested so much. They do recognise the difference, and hopefully there'll be a lot more if we educate the brides. But because of that, there's almost a reaction to the poorly done reportage. There's very high-end documentary photographers like Jeff Ascoff and other people I could name, but there's also a lot of dross there, and it's actually given reportage a bad name, so to speak. But people do want something different, and the difference is proper lit, properly composed pictures.
Well, what you're saying is 110% right. And the problem is, unfortunately, the technology is getting better by the day and cheaper. And it's a lot cheaper to set up a wedding photography business. And most photographers who are coming into the wedding market think that it's a one-day's work for X amount of pounds, which is not. It's a week's work, at least.
They've got quite a sharp. But then the onus on us is to make sure things are different. I went to Kevin Wilson's seminar last month, and I'm fortunate. I was trained by a really top classical photographer, John Bubb, but it re-emphasised that I need to keep pushing for the light, doing something different, because if you're the average bride, you see the rubbish in most of the wedding magazines and all the bridal channels and Hello Magazine, and it's not until they're actually exposed to something different, it's up to us to get that in front of them to make them want to spend the money and to do something different. We've got to give them a reason not to use their mate at work with a camera. Yeah,
absolutely. Guys and girls, I've got a few more minutes with Peter. Please get your questions pinging in if you have any, and I'll put it across to Peter. Now let's go back to your workflow for designing and choosing the images for your album. You mentioned very briefly that you pick up your X number of images for an album and present it to the couple.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for quite a while, and it's a very unique way of designing albums and choosing images for your clients.
Yeah, well, I can't claim that it's my idea. I'm very good friends with Jeff Ascoff, which most people
Yeah,
know about, and I
yeah,
know he started doing this about 12 years ago,
yeah,
and this is before Digital Wedding Forum or training schools like SF Photo School, and because I knew him, he quite kindly showed me the idea, because when I had a full-time job, showing proofs and all the time-consuming meetings with brides and selling sessions just didn't
yeah,
fit into our way of life.
yeah,
So for us, they also chose the wrong pictures and the wrong order of pictures. So
yeah,
I tell the clients, I'm very open about it, but it's very important, A, that you can produce what they're expecting,
yeah,
also to listen to what they want and what they don't want. And then
yeah,
around those ideas, I document the day, including their requests and sympathetic to how I think they want pictures to happen. You've got to get into their head. But then
yeah,
after the wedding, when I come back here, I load up the cards on the computer. I'm quite a strict editor, so if I've taken 500, after the initial edit and raw conversions, I'm putting it down to 150, 200 images to design the album. And
yeah,
then probably 80, 90% of those would actually make the finished album. So from loading the cards to designing the album, which I design in Jorgensen software for the Jorgensen
yeah,
albums,
yeah,
if I did it in one session, it's probably 5 hours. All I'm waiting for then is for the album to come from Australia and for the prints to come back from my lab in Sussex. And then I'm quite fortunate that my wife then mounts the pictures into the matted albums for me. And
yeah,
most of my bride and grooms, the album is shipped to where they live, because they don't live anywhere near where we are. Obviously, we go all over the country. There's quite a
yeah,
good workflow, but the pitfalls are, you've got, it can be a lot of pitfalls if you're not upfront with your clients, and
that's
you've
right.
got to make sure that you cover all the bases and
Yeah.
get it right,
So,
basically.
I mean, your clients must trust you
Yeah.
100%, because they can quite easily come back to you and say, well, we don't like this picture and we don't like that layout. So do they even see your layouts before they see the album?
They don't see the layouts. To be honest, we used to do proof albums, although it's a long time ago. We used to get more problems. We probably get the odd person every year say, oh, I'm not sure about that one. And the worst case was bride didn't like a first dance picture because her mother-in-law was in the background, and that's a
Yeah,
genuine thing. But you're always going to get one. But what we do is to try and cut that off, because obviously they're waiting 6 or 7 weeks for their album, and
yeah,
they're getting the pressure from their friends, can we see your pictures?
yeah,
About 3 weeks after the wedding, I would have put a blog post on most weddings on my blog anyway, and I let the
yeah,
bride know, which is good for Google. But then about a week later, we put a gallery on there with a password only the couple get. That only shows all the pictures that have made the album. But if there was a problem with a picture, if they're quick, we could change the album. We could get them a different matte cut. It's not a problem.
okay, yeah,
But that's the only input they would ever get.
okay. I've got a few people ask me before during the session, do you sell digital files? If not, why not?
Yes, reluctantly. We're quite happy to sell them if they bought an album package, and
Yeah,
we charge 500. So they bought their album. It's £500 for a CD with license to print for personal use. That is
yeah,
the files that make the album, nothing else.
nothing else, yeah,
We have, although I don't like it, do offer shoot and burn, as it's
yeah,
so called,
yeah,
but only this year, and it's £1,800 is the starting price, which we charge by hours, so the equivalent hours of an album is actually cheaper.
yeah. But don't you
But
think the shoot and burn weddings are more profitable than the traditional wedding with an album?
they can be, for short term, yes, and the bottom line is we've all got to pay a mortgage. I
Yeah,
think long term, it's not good for the business.
yeah,
As an example, my wife, I photographed a product she makes at home, handmade products for dogs. And
yeah,
because she was in a hurry to take it, she had them printed in Asda off my colour-corrected disc, and they're atrocious.
yeah,
And then when she's showing people, I'm saying, please don't tell them that I took the pictures.
yeah,
And that's what I'm worried about. Maybe it's only me, but I just like my pictures to look. I spend a lot of time trying to get the print quality and everything, and it's just a tragedy when they just get printed at Tesco's or Jessop's or somewhere like that.
this is the problem, Peter. We don't have any control on the digital files, and it is very, very difficult to educate and police how not to take, yeah.
I think the way around it is that I'd like to charge more, but if you could, this year we've done digital weddings, files weddings from 1,800, one was $2.5 grand, and the bottom line is, my wife's attitude, it's all profit, why are you worrying? And I thought maybe it's a changing world and we may have to do that, but it's a shame.
Yeah. Last couple of questions, Peter.
Sure.
Do you offer discounts on midweek weddings?
Normally, no. We have a midweek price, which is a lesser product and lesser time. I.e., we start 4 hours on a Saturday upwards. We have a 12-inch square Jorgensen album, but our off-peak, we have an off-peak wedding which is 3 hours coverage. They can buy extra hours with a 9-inch album, so it's cheaper, but it's obviously costing us less. We take product out.
Okay. And the last question, Peter, is what advice would you give someone who is coming into wedding photography?
Try not to run before you can walk. Get the basics right. Practice them. Get as much experience as you can. Listen to things like this, and just try and get as much experience and absorb it as much as you can. Too many people try to be clever and it's back to keeping it simple. Get the basics right, and you can build your style and your clever stuff from there. It's just, I wouldn't waste money on the dearest camera. Just get cameras that do the job. If you've got spare money, so marketing on websites is much more important, because you might have a D3S or 3 of them. I don't know, somebody. If you haven't got any work, they're a waste of money.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you very much for your knowledge, your wisdom, and also, sharing your experience of the various weddings you have shot. It has been absolutely been a pleasure and a privilege to be your host this evening, Peter. And I've got loads and loads of thank yous from everyone sending in, especially one from Les Vincent. He said, I'm not a wedding photographer, but I did find Peter's photos interesting and very, very informative. So thank you very much. And so is Jürgen saying, Melanie saying thank you, invaluable advice. So all these comments and thank yous are pinging in as we talk.
Thank you.
I hope everyone enjoyed this little session with Peter, and I look forward to seeing you soon. It will be on the 6th of December with Bob Campbell from On One Software, and he's going to show us some really cool tips and tricks on how to turbocharge your workflow. Peter, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you, mate.
Okay, take care. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much, everyone. Bye.